Imagine running into the one person you swore you'd never see again. And the moment their eyes land on you, their entire psychology shifts in less than a second. Because what they do next isn't random. It's predictable, calculated, and designed to pull you right back into their emotional gravity. Before I break this down, tap the like button so this message reaches the people who need clarity, not confusion. When a narcissist sees you after no contact, the very first thing they do, often within a fraction of a second, is scan you for weaknesses or emotional openings. This isn't a conscious, gentle observation. It's a psychological assessment driven by survival, ego, and control. Their eyes move differently than a normal person's would in a moment of surprise or reunion. They're not looking at your outfit, your smile, or even your presence. They're looking for cracks. They're assessing your posture, the tension in your face, how quickly you look away, whether your breathing changes, or if your shoulders drop in familiarity. They want to know if the old version of you is still accessible, the version that tolerated their manipulation, absorbed their moods, and carried their emotional weight. That split-second scan is their attempt to understand whether they still hold psychological real estate in your mind. In that moment, they're evaluating your emotional temperature. If you appear nervous, unsettled, or unsure, they register it like a green light. It signals that they can still influence you, push your boundaries, or pull you back into the dynamic you worked so hard to escape. But if you look grounded, uninterested, or neutral, it unsettles them. Narcissists depend heavily on predictable emotional reactions from others. When you no longer respond, it disrupts their sense of control. They're looking for vulnerability, and when they can't find it, it triggers an internal crisis masked behind whatever expression they decide to display. This scanning behavior is also tied to their need to maintain superiority. They want to determine whether their disappearance affected you, whether you seem weaker or stronger, whether your life looks like it improved or deteriorated without them. They read your appearance, your energy, and even your silence as evidence for or against their narrative about you. If you seem at peace, it contradicts their belief that you can't thrive without them. If you look distressed, it confirms their fantasy that they remain unforgettable. Their entire identity depends on these interpretations. So that initial scan isn't about reconnecting or acknowledging your presence. It's about recalculating their power, determining their chances of re-entry, or deciding how to react to protect their fragile ego. When a narcissist sees you after a period of no contact, they instantly shift into performance mode, adapting their entire persona to whatever they believe will give them the most psychological advantage in that moment. This adjustment is not subtle, it's almost theatrical. Their body language, tone, expressions, and energy change like they're stepping into a role they've rehearsed countless times. If they sense that charm is the most effective route, they soften their eyes, offer a warm smile, and speak with an ease that feels disarming, almost nostalgic. They may come across as friendly, grounded, or suddenly self-aware, as if the past never happened. This charm isn't sincerity, it's strategy. They're trying to lure you back into the emotional familiarity where they once could shape your reactions. If charm doesn't seem like the right tool, they shift to dramatic flair. They might appear overly excited to see you, almost exaggeratedly enthusiastic, acting like the reunion is meaningful or fate-driven. This isn't emotion, it's manipulation wrapped in intensity. It's designed to overwhelm your boundaries and make you forget the chaos they caused. But if they detect strength, indifference, or distance in your energy, the performance pivots. They may become cold, stoic, or aloof, using emotional absence as a power play. They might look through you instead of at you, pretending you're irrelevant or insignificant. This version of performance aims to provoke insecurity and make you feel like you were never important. It's punishment disguised as nonchalance. Sometimes they choose a wounded performance, soft eyes, lowered voice, slow sighs, as if they're the one hurt by the distance, as if the separation was mutual pain. They use vulnerability as a hook, hoping it will trigger your empathy, because empathy has always been one of their favorite tools to exploit. All of this happens rapidly, within seconds, because narcissists don't operate from authenticity. They operate from instinctive manipulation. They choose whichever persona they believe will give them the upper hand, regain emotional access, or unsettle your stability. Every expression, every gesture, every tone shift is calculated to influence your reaction, pull you back into their orbit, or protect their fragile ego from the realization that you moved on without them. When a narcissist sees you after no contact, one of the very first things they do, almost automatically, is test your boundaries. This isn't always done through obvious behavior. In fact, the most powerful tests are subtle, quiet, and easy to miss if you're not paying attention. They might take a small step closer than what's appropriate, or speak to you with a tone that assumes familiarity, as if the time apart never existed. These micro behaviors are deliberate probes to see whether you'll allow them access again. Narcissists operate like emotional opportunists. They're looking for the smallest opening that signals you might still be influenced by them. Sometimes the boundary test takes the form of an innocent-sounding question that digs deeper than it should. They might ask how you've been, but with a tone that suggests entitlement to your inner world. Or they reference something personal from the past, a private moment or inside joke, to see if you'll slip back into the old emotional rhythm you once had with them. Even the way they say your name can carry an assumed closeness, as though the relationship never fractured. These are tests designed to gauge whether you're still emotionally reachable. Other times, the test is more provocative. A narcissist might make a slightly critical comment disguised as humor, waiting to see if you shrink, apologize, or adjust yourself the way you used to. They might attempt a backhanded compliment meant to destabilize you and measure your reaction. If you seem rattled, they read it as a sign that their psychological influence is intact. If you remain unbothered, they feel threatened, because losing influence over someone they once controlled is deeply destabilizing to them. Even silence can be a boundary test. If they pause after saying something, they're waiting to see whether you will fill the space, over-explain, or try to ease the tension. You doing so reassures them that the dynamic is still uneven, that you're still the one accommodating their mood. These tests are quick but intentional, because re-establishing the old power structure is their priority. The moment they sense that the boundaries you once lacked are now firm, they experience it as a challenge to their ego, and that changes the entire direction of the interaction. When a narcissist sees you after no contact, one of their instant reactions is to try to reclaim psychological power, and they often do this through guilt, nostalgia, or intimidation. This attempt isn't random. It's their reflexive way of restoring the hierarchy that once kept you emotionally tied to them. They cannot tolerate the idea that the dynamic has shifted, so they reach for whatever emotional lever worked most effectively in the past, Guilt is one of their favorite tools. They might say something that sounds gentle on the surface, but carries a heavy implication beneath it. Something like, I thought you'd at least check on me, or I guess you moved on, easily. These statements are designed to make you feel like you neglected them, even though they were the one who caused the harm. It's their way of flipping the script so you second guess your decision to walk away. If guilt doesn't seem effective, they pivot to nostalgia. They may bring up a memory, a moment, or a joke meant to pull you back into the emotional familiarity you once shared. Nostalgia allows them to bypass logic and reach into the part of you that remembers connection, warmth, or hope. They use this because they know emotional memory can be powerful, and if they can get you to soften even briefly, it gives them a foothold in your mind again. They're not reminiscing because they value the moment. They're doing it because they want to reopen the emotional door you closed. When neither guilt nor nostalgia works, they escalate. Intimidation becomes the next tool, sometimes subtle, sometimes sharp. Their posture stiffens, their expression tightens, or their tone shifts into something colder. They might make a comment meant to unsettle you or remind you of the power they once had. This intimidation is less about actual threat and more about psychological dominance. They want you to feel small, unsteady, or unsure so they can regain control of the narrative. All three methods, guilt, nostalgia, intimidation, serve the same purpose: to pull you back into the emotional space where they were in charge. Seeing you strong, distant, or healed threatens them deeply, so reclaiming that power becomes their immediate priority. When a narcissist sees you after no contact, one of the fastest behaviors they slip into is mirroring your energy. This isn't the healthy kind of mirroring that builds connection. It's a manipulative strategy designed to confuse you, disarm you, or pull you back into old emotional patterns. They study your tone, your expression, your posture, and even your level of enthusiasm or indifference, and then they adjust themselves to match it. If you seem calm and distant, they might suddenly become calm and distant too, as if to suggest they've changed, matured, or evolved during the separation. This creates a false sense of alignment, making you second-guess the pain they caused. You may think, maybe they're different now, when in reality, they're just copying your behavior to lower your guard. If you appear warm or polite, they instantly shift into that same warmth, using it as an opportunity to revive familiarity. They know that matching your tone makes you more comfortable, and comfort is where old patterns can slip back in unnoticed. But if you appear confident, strong, or self-assured, they may mirror that strength, not because they feel it, but because they want you to believe they're on your level now. Narcissists are excellent mimics. They can study your emotional cues and reflect them back with surprising precision. This talent is what makes their presence feel familiar and convincing even after periods of distance. Mirroring also allows them to mask their true motives. By matching your emotional state, they hide any insecurity, jealousy, or anger they feel from seeing you after a long separation. Instead of exposing vulnerability, they imitate stability, hoping you'll be thrown off balance. They want you to question whether your memory of them was exaggerated, harsh, or unfair. Mirroring is their way of rewriting the emotional script without ever acknowledging the harm they caused. Most importantly, this tactic helps them quickly reestablish the old dynamic. If they can get you to feel comfortable, nostalgic, or emotionally synchronized with them, they regain influence. The moment you respond positively, even subtly, they interpret it as an invitation to step back into your life. Their goal isn't connection, it's access. Mirroring is simply the fastest way to get it. When a narcissist sees you after no contact, one of the most predictable things they do is attempt to recreate the old dynamic instantly, almost as if no time has passed. This reaction isn't accidental. It's a deeply ingrained pattern designed to pull you back into the emotional role you once played. The moment they recognize you, their mind rushes back to the version of you that was easier to control, easier to impress, easier to destabilize. They behave as though the history between you remains frozen in time, expecting you to step back into that old position without hesitation. This is why their tone, their expressions, and even their pacing become eerily familiar. They're trying to trigger muscle memory in you, emotional muscle memory that brings back old behaviors, old vulnerabilities, and old reactions. They might use inside jokes, shared routines, or personal references as if the bond never fractured. They may speak in the same rhythm or use the same phrases that once had power over you. This isn't sentimentality, it's strategy. They know people often revert to familiar patterns when confronted with past emotional dynamics, and they want to activate that reflex before your healed self has time to step in. They rely on immediacy, catching you off guard before you mentally prepare, before you reinforce boundaries, before you recall the reasons you walked away. If you previously played the role of caretaker, they may subtly try to pull that out of you again by appearing stressed, confused, or overwhelmed. If they once positioned you as the insecure one, they may make comments that lower your confidence. If they used to keep you chasing their validation, they may adopt a dismissive tone to recreate that imbalance. Every version of the old dynamic is a tool to regain control. This quick recreation also protects their ego. It allows them to pretend the separation didn't impact them or that you were never truly gone. It helps them avoid confronting the reality that you grew, healed, or changed in their absence. Narcissists struggle with new dynamics because new dynamics require accountability. Old dynamics don't. So they rush to reestablish that familiar structure, hoping you'll slip back into it without noticing how intentionally it's being reconstructed. When a narcissist sees you after no contact, they instantly begin evaluating whether you are still a source of supply or whether they need to discard you again to feel superior. This assessment happens almost automatically because supply, your attention, emotion, admiration, or even your distress, is the core fuel that keeps their ego functioning. They are not looking at you as a person they miss or someone they want to reconnect with. They are analyzing your value in that moment. If you seem emotionally open, hurt, nostalgic, or reactive, they read that as evidence that you're still usable, still reachable, still someone they can tap into for validation or power. To them, this means you remain a resource they haven't fully depleted. But if you appear composed, indifferent, confident, or unaffected, they have a very different reaction. Your stability threatens their sense of dominance because it signals that you are no longer emotionally accessible. They begin to feel insignificant, irrelevant, or powerless in your presence. Narcissists cannot tolerate this. Feeling so, they often shift quickly into internal damage control, rewriting the moment in their mind in a way that protects their ego. They may tell themselves that you were always the problem, that they never cared, or that rejecting you again is a way of proving superiority. This mental discard may play out through coldness, arrogance, or abrupt dismissal, all meant to make it seem like you are beneath their attention. Sometimes their evaluation lands somewhere in the middle. They see potential supply, but not the easy kind they once extracted from you. This is when they test the waters with subtle charm, mixed emotional cues, or controlled vulnerability, hoping to see if you'll respond. If you give even a small reaction, they take it as encouragement and prepare to re-engage. If you give nothing, they feel exposed and may attempt to punish you with emotional withdrawal or passive-aggressive behavior. This instant evaluation reveals what you truly meant to them, not emotionally, but functionally. You were a source of fuel, and they're checking whether that fuel still exists. The moment they realize they can't extract anything, they detach, not from strength, but from fear of being seen as powerless.